Hi there, and welcome back to episode 3 of the Struggle Podcast. So, I have made some decisions or I have made the decision to drop the Saga of Bob because I realized that it's not working for me, and if it's not working for me, then I don't believe that it works for you. So I wouldn't change anything from last episode in respect to that. I think that you can do what you will with the Bob example, or just mostly listen to what I talk about afterwards with the goals and the dreams and so on. So stick with that instead. So, what I'm going to do instead is that I will talk more about my own experience, which I again realized at first I thought it would be boring to talk about my story, but after listening to some audiobooks by David Goggins and Arnold Schwarzenegger, then I realized that it's actually my story is one of my greatest assets and what makes me me. So I'm gonna keep to that instead, and try to be. I have a goal to be as honest as possible, so you truly can see who I am and where I come from, and maybe get a better understanding of why I do this with you right now. So today, we are going to talk about habits, which is a topic, if you couldn't tell from my smile, and I hope those with the audio couldn't tell it from the hear of my or couldn't tell it from the sound of my voice. I love this topic about habits. I think it's really, really interesting, and it's one of the things that I have put a lot of time and effort in, when it comes to changing my life and my habits, because I at some point realized that there are some habits that are not good for a person, and I don't think it depends on who that person is. I just believe they're not good, and I have done many of them in the past. And on the other side, then there are habits that are insanely good for a person's health, both physically and mentally, and just overall well-being. So I think that it's very important to make that shift from doing bad habits which are working against you, making that shift from those over to good habits that are working with you and not against you. And the big or the major things between bad habits and good habits, as I see it, is that bad habits are those that consist of what's it called? Instant gratification. It's outside pleasure. And that means that these are things that you can just do instantly and you will immediately be rewarded in your brain, uh, biologically, with feel good hormones like dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and I endorphins. And the others, the good habits, are habits that take time, they take work, they take effort to do, but the rewards are so much more than just feel good hormones. They are really impactful on overall well-being, physically and mentally. So that's why I think that most people go towards these bad habits because they're easy to do. There's reward instantly. You don't have to work for it or think about it or anything. There's just reward. Yes, I feel good. Great. And then when there are good habits, which takes effort and time, and you need to work for get the same feel good hormones, or maybe even less feel good hormones than compared to these outside pleasures that you can get. So what I say that you need to make this shift, because if you keep doing these bad habits, then doing the good habits will be harder for you, because you get, as I said, you get reward over here instantly all the time. And the reward, you don't want to do the work or put in the time to get the actual good rewards over here, because you or just you get more rewards in feel good hormones over here. And those in the audio, I'm sorry, I'm switching from side to side. You unfortunately can't see that. Go check the video instead, if you want to see it. So let's talk a bit about those bad habits that some of them I have done throughout my years, or the majority of my years of living. So um, you can say, maybe I just should go with a list. Some of those habits that I believe are bad are playing video games, watching television, and that's just most of it. Is TV shows, TV programs, streaming, Netflix, and so on. With streaming, it's even worse than with normal TV shows, but it's still worse. And then you have sugary foods, or no, not in necessarily foods with high calories. Let's just processed foods, pre-processed food with high amounts of sugar. And there's gambling, smoking, drinking alcohol. There are social media, of course, big competitor in these. And there's also gambling, there's pornography, and there might be some else, I can't really remember right now, but there's also dating apps, which might fall into the category of social media. I think you get the idea. um, and what happens with these habits is that when you do them, for example, if you watch TV, you just sit passively and watch in. So apparently my recording got disturbed because of some technical issues, but we are back, I hope. So where did I left off? I left off from the bad habits that we do, and I was trying to explain why they're bad. They are bad because you do them, and there are high amounts of feel good hormones that just are being expelled out in your brain. And what that is, if you do these habits a lot, then your, what can you say, status quo level of feel good hormones starts to increase. So that means if you watch a lot of television, you just want to go back to keep watching television to stay high with the feel good hormones expansion, or you know. And that means if you have to do activities that doesn't give you that amount of feel good hormones, which it really does, then you will feel absolutely miserable doing these activities, because you don't get the reward that you usually do when you watch television. So you don't want to take the dishes, you don't want to work out, you don't want to go to work, you just want to stay home and watch television, because that's where you'll be, up here, where you want to be, and not down here where everything is just shit. So how do you, and this is the same thing for all the bad habits that I spoke of. So how do you change this? The way you change this is that you stop doing those bad habits. I am personally a fan of not doing them at all. I can agree to that you can lessen them, so you are spending less time up here at the high levels of feel good hormones and more time down here. So you could do it as a reward for yourself in the evening, when you have worked out, you have done your job, you have made good meals for yourself, you have taken care of yourself, and as a reward, you watch some television, some YouTube, or something like that, for an hour or half an hour or something like that, but not more. That's it. So that's what I can agree you to do. I would say just do it completely, because I mean, life will, it will change so much for you, and really drastically. At first, you will feel like shit not being able to go back to being up here. But the beautiful thing about the body is that it adapts. It adapts. This is also why it have adapted itself to be up here, because you have watched so much television, played so many video games, and so on and so on. So you will have to adapt, going on a long downward slope back to the normal levels of feel good hormones, when it actually starts become feeling good to do work, to work out, to make some good meals for yourself, and taking care of your body, doing the right things, so to say. The right things are so hard to do, because we are so used to do the bad things, which feels so immeasurably good. So going down to doing all the good things, it will be a life changer. And my story in this is that I, throughout most of my life and my teenage years, I played a lot of video games, and I watched a lot of television, and also I didn't eat that many sugary sweets, or what you say, drank that much alcohol, because I've also got the worst hangovers. So I know how to hold back, not to feel totally miserable the day after. I have never smoked a cigarette, because I know how addicting it is and how freaking healthy it is for your body. So I have just constantly throughout my life saying, no, I'm not smoking. And I think that's the mentality that kind of got me out of all these things. It might have started with not smoking. I have also watched pornography, which I think the majority of the population here on Earth has. So I've also stopped with that, because that also really fucks your brain, to say it mildly. um, but that mentality with not smoking cigarettes, I have taken to all the other bad habits as well. To say, that's just because in the end I want something with my life. I want to do something, and I want to be helpful to as much people as possible. And I cannot, the way I see it, I cannot do that if I keep doing these bad habits, because they will distract me, and they will take away my precious time for doing the right work. What is required of me to do the things I want to achieve. I want to be healthy. I want to have a good looking body. I want to be strong. I want to be fast. I want to eat good and healthy to fuel this body, to fuel my mind with good fuel, so I can stay on the top of my game the majority of the time. It's not possible to be on the majority of your game 24 hours a day. It's just not possible. But to as many hours as possible a day. So that's just what I believe. And this shift happened some years ago, or actually, it was the complete shift happened last year ago. It started. It started back in 2020 when I first started this self improvement journey, and then it just slowly moved from less bad habits to more good habits. And in 2022, I have just started, what you say, not watch as much television or television shows as I did before, to increase my work ethic, which was very bad before. The majority of my life, I've been, at school, being a student. I did my homework, but I hated it. I completely hated it. And being a student at a university, I was not a good student. I did not read the books. I just kind of went with the flow and did what I could, and I managed. I went through. Um, but then I was hit by my concussion in 2022, which lasted. It was in late October 2022, and I have still, what you say, symptoms and problems from it, which is now about 1 year and 8 months afterwards. And it has been pretty bad. It has been quite bad. It has been the lowest point of my life so far. And ultimately, I realized a lot of things about my life. That's when I realized a lot of these things that I just talked about in this video, to make this shift from doing the bad habits to the good habits if I want to achieve these things that I want in my life, which is to be a good person, do the right things, help others become good purpose as persons, and do the right things. And I was, I actually would say, lucky to be forced out of these bad habits from because of my concussion, where I could not watch television anymore. I could not play video games. I could not go on social media or go out and partying and drinking as I did every weekend as a student. And I was just taken off from all these bad habits, which was hard and difficult, with the also being added concussion symptoms, which was not fun. But I learned massively from this situation of mine, which is also one of the big reasons why I'm sitting here now talking to you. And I realized this, that I need to do this shift, and that was going on to the good habits, which I think, first of all, is to make sure that your physically well being is at the top priority of your life. Because if your physical well being is not good, then your mentally well being is neither good, because these two things affects each other. Our body is one. You cannot divide the mind and the brain into, or yeah, divide the body. I'm trying once again. You can't divide the brain and mind and body. They are one equal thing. So if your body feels like shit, you feel like shit. And vice versa, if you feel like shit in your head, in your mind, your body feels like shit. So you can affect one of the two, and it will indirectly affect the other one, because they are connected, of course. So that is why I think health is number one priority, because it makes the best circumstances for your mentally well-being. So that is to there are 3 steps to an overall health. I have narrowed down to 3 steps. There might be more. But that is first of all exercise, movement in general, then it is diet, and then it is sleep. These 3 components are the major ones in terms of physical well-being. And I would like to talk about them not in next episode, but in the next episode again. So that will be the 5th episode. I will talk about these 3. I will get back to them. And then the other ones are, or yeah, these will take up a lot of time. I have to say it. But you will have more time because you have quit a lot of bad habits, which might be at the majority of your spare time. So you will have more time to do these bad habits, or these good habits, sorry. um, and then one also very good habit is reading books, because there are a lot of really, really good information and knowledge from books. And many of the people on social media are talking about this knowledge from books, myself included. And you could, the best thing is to read books. So if you find it difficult to read, I would say that instead of looking at social media before you go to bed, read in a book. How long is up to you. I would say 30 minutes is a very good habit to get into, to read 30 minutes before you go to bed. You can, of course, do more. You can read when you go to the toilet. You can read when you drink your coffee in the morning, eating breakfast instead of watching television. Um, I would just encourage you to read. And if you would like to, I would encourage you to read nonfiction, because that's where the real good knowledge is. You could also read fiction. I would say nonfiction is, in my standards, better, but you can combine it. So you read nonfiction. You can either do it. The way I do it is that I cannot read because of my concept. I can read, but it's very hard for me to read, to use my eyes. They are very strained at the moment with a lot of tension. So my reading and looking at screens is limited throughout the day. So I have started listening to audiobooks, which is really great. I wish I had done that sooner, I gotta be honest. So the way I do it is that I listen to nonfiction audiobooks throughout the day when I might have a break to just listen for a moment or so. And then in the evening, when I am quite tired, I don't want to read to most or listen to motivational books. I just want a good story. So I've just started listening to memoirs, which is kind of a way to both connect the story part of fiction books and the information and knowledge from nonfiction books. So I think that's pretty interesting, and I like it quite a lot. Actually, I've just finished Wild by Cheryl Strayed, which I will do a video on or an episode on at some point. And I started on listening to Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, which is about his story becoming the person he is today, which is also I've just listened to the first chapter. Amazing. It's crazy. It's crazy good. Um, but then I also sometimes just listen to a fiction book, if I like to do that. So that's the way you can do it. Or you can read one fiction book, then you can switch. When you've done that, you can switch to a non-fiction book and switch back to a fiction book and switch to a non-fiction book and just go on like that. So you switch between fiction and non-fiction. And I got this advice from Mark Manson, which is that you can easily do multiple books at the time. At first, I was a bit skeptical about that, but I actually believe is true. If you are not spending too long time away from a certain book, because then it's hard to dive back into it and to get back to the story of where you left it. So if you choose to switch between, you can switch between three books of one nonfiction self-help book and one memoir and biography, and then one fiction book. Switch between those three um, throughout the day. I You can do that. That's totally fine if you want to, or just stick to one book at a time if you find that's better. Switch between books because at times I might, oh, I don't want to listen to this right now, and then go back to one other book that I'm in and listen to that. Go back to the other. So just kind of go back and forth if I tend to become or get bored by the book that I'm currently in. And that was the good habits. And of course, the last good habit that I would like to mention before I end this episode is the habit of achieving your dreams, which is in essence what you should shape your life around. If you ask me, you should shape your life around trying to achieve your dreams and your vision here in life. Because if you don't do that, you kind of miss a great opportunity to live a great life. And you only have one, so why not give it a shot? In my opinion, you don't have anything to lose to give it a shot. You only have to lose outside pleasure, which I think is a great, great thing to lose. Because not only does hard things become easier to do, they start to reap awards with them. You can do the dishes easily. You can go out for a walk, enjoy your environment, and if you're walking in nature, it will become so much more pleasurable to you than it would be before when you were in all these bad habits. So I really, 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 really encourage you to make that switch. But I've also realized lately, with starting reading all these nonfiction books, that making that switch is not about get yourself together, you can do it, that kind of trying to work yourself into it, so to say. I found out lately that there are two parts of what you say, making decisions upon what you want to do. There are the so-called thinking brain, which is the one that rationalize things, that you should do it because it's the right thing, and so on and so on. And then there are the feeling brain, which actually have a bigger impact to make these decisions than what I actually initially thought. So the way I was taught is there's two metaphors for it. The one is that there are two passengers in a car, where the feeling brain is the one driving the car, and the thinking brain or the rational brain is the one sitting in the passenger seat. Sorry, there was just a bird right outside my window. I was like, whoa. Um, and then the other metaphor is that if you are riding a horse, then the horse would be the feeling brain, and you, the rider, would be the thinking brain, the rational brain. And I actually think that this metaphor is better, because if you if you pull the strings too hard, if you are too harsh, if your rational brain is too harsh towards your feeling brain, towards the horse, then the horse will not move. Your feeling brain won't do anything, and you are becoming incapable of doing any action or taking any action at all. And vice versa, if you don't steer the horse at all, then it just does what it pleases with no control at all. So your feeling brain will just be left to make decisions of everything, and you will just wander around, so to say, not having any direction at all. And then there are the balance, where the rational brain knows how to control the horse, to steer it in the direction where it wants it to go. And that's the key, to get the balance, because then your two your feelings and your rationalism, your mind, your your rationalism will work together to get you to the goal where you actually want. So I am pretty good at rationalizing and making rational decisions, but I am not very connected to my emotions and to my feelings. So that is an area that I have to work with. And I've also found some books that I'm going to dive into, which is the what's it called, Emotional Intelligence by David Goleman. And I found on Audible that there are a lot of others books talking about emotional intelligence, because it's become quite a hot topic today, or in today's world. And because many people have realized that it actually matters quite a lot in terms of making the right decisions toward a, you can say, a good life and a successful life. And it's not just the IQ, you could say. You could also divide it into IQ, the rationalizing of your brain, and the EQ, the emotional intelligence of your brain. So IQ, it can be, it's pretty fast. It can be trained, where EQ, emotional intelligence, can easier be trained. Um, so Daniel Goleman, or David Goleman, I can't quite remember, but his books about emotional intelligence and social intelligence I would recommend, even though I haven't read them, but I know that he's good. And then final book recommendations about habits, there are of course the maybe most popular self-help book, Atomic Habits. I have not read it, I want to read it. And there's also the Power of Habits, which I also know about. And then there are this one, which I found about lately and bought, and it's called 75 Danish crowns, which is called Dopamine Nation. And it actually talks about some of these things that I just spoke of. And I didn't know this book existed before I came to this realization. When I found out it existed, I was like, damn, someone's already got it. And I found out many more on the internet got it. So it's not nothing new, it's not nothing huge, but I think that I didn't know about it before I started realizing it. So I believe that it's not a very common thing. So I think it's good to make some what you say, to make it a topic to talk about, to spread the light on it. And this book is about how to find balance between pleasure and pain. So balance between doing what I call bad habits and good habits. And I haven't read it. I am still in the I still believe that you should stay away from bad habits, because that will make good habits easier to do and a lot more pleasurable. But this talks about the balance of both, which I think it would be good to get that perspective to read as well. So I might listen to the audiobook before I read it, honest. But I will at some point get through it, and of course leave a review about it. And now I think it's time to end the video and check if everything is as it should be, because my recording just got screwed in the middle of it. So there needs to be done some more editing than usual. And I think I actually messed up about the topics of the episodes. I might have said last time that this would be about what we're going to talk about in next episode, which is how to connect and get the balance between the emotional brain and the rationalized brain, to get that into balance and to make decisions become an ease of to make good quality decisions for yourself and your life. But I think that this is also a huge part of it, about stay away from the bad habits to connect into the good habits. But we have talked about in this video, and next video we will talk about the brain part and the subsequent divisions of the mind and the conscious, which we're also going to dive into some psychology, which is quite interesting. But that will be it for today's video, and I'm just gonna end it right here. So I hope to see you in the next one.